Hi folks, our next segment of Just Outdoors will involve the trails of Itasca County, the recreational trails of Itasca County. Snowmobile, ATV, motorcycles, and we have two folks from the county and the state. We have Andrew Brown from the state and Sara Thompson from the county. They're going to represent those two groups, and we're going to talk about all the rules and regulations and how many trails, where these trails go, and what's coming up on these trails in Itasca County. So watch us. Just Outdoors is brought to you in part by
Jervalin Hardware Hank, Deer River. Jervalin Hardware offers a broad selection of paints and sporting goods and a complete line of plumbing and electrical supplies. Jervalin Hardware, 108 Main Avenue, Deer River.
Hi, my name is Tom Chapin, and welcome to Just Outdoors on ICTV. This is a program to bring you the bare facts about the woods, the waters, and wildlife of Itasca County. And we have two special guests today. We're going to be talking about trails, all kinds of recreational trails in Itasca County. A lot of confusion out there on who can use them and where they go and who owns them and how you acquire them. And we're going to try to cover all that for you today with these two folks right here. We got Andrew Brown. Thank you for coming in.
You bet.
And Sara Thompson, your county representative.
Yes.
And Andrew, your state of Minnesota DNR representative.
Yes.
So let's talk a little about Andrew Brown and who you are and where you're from and how you got the job.
Well, I grew up in a small town of McGregor in Aiken County. Took an interest in natural resources and have a forestry background. Took a job with Itasca County in recreation, actually Sara's position, and then worked there for about 3 years. 2010, I took a position with Grand Rapids area Parks and Trails, managing trails and water rec facilities across the county. And just recently, last year, I took the Northeast Regional Acquisition and Development position for Parks and Trails. So
I don't want to repeat that, but you're kind of a coordinator for that.
Yeah. I work in acquisition and development for parks and trails now.
Okay.
So
well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk a little about parks too, besides the trails, because they're kind of interconnected, you know. Okay, we'll get to you. Sara, what's your thing?
Well, I grew up originally from Northeast Iowa and moved to Minnesota about 20 years ago, and so since then I graduated from University of Minnesota Crookston with a bachelor's in natural resource management, park and recreation management. Worked in and out of different natural resource agencies, as many as you can think of. I started with the county in 2011, and been great. And I am a forest recreation specialist for Itasca County, and I work with ATV clubs and snowmobile clubs primarily, dispersed motorized recreation in the county to develop trails, work with planning and development. Itasca County oversees the design and development of these trails and acts as fiscal agent, as a sponsor, if requested by the club.
Okay, good. Well, we got a lot of experience here between the two of you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you've got the education. You know, you've been in the dirt, so to speak. So we'll see what happens here, because I'm just going to kind of ad lib this whole thing, because I really know nothing about the trails in Itasca County personally, I mean, I know that they're there. I guess I've used a few of them. I've been on them with the signs. Some of them are different jurisdictions, and that's what's confusing to people. You got the state, the county, and the federal trails, and there's a few regulations that are different on some of those. But let's talk about first with you, Andrew.
Sure.
On acquisition of a trail. I mean, when I first moved to Itasca County, there were basically no trails. I mean, the snowmobiles were just, that'll tell me my age, but they were just starting. We had like a 7-horse engine in our snowmobiles. ATVs weren't even developed until 1980. And so there was no need for the trails and so on. Well, so how do you acquire a trail? I mean, because you're going to have to involve private land, right?
Well,
Yeah.
in many cases, and in this part of the state, folks were real fortunate to have a large public land base to work with, which I think we owe a lot to that for the network of trails that we do have. The snowmobile system has a long track record of successfully working with private landowners as well. I think the ATV trail system, it's a little more challenging because, with snowmobiles, when the spring comes, the trail goes away, right? So it's a little more challenging, but we have had some success working with private landowners, like Bland and Paper Company, for instance.
Yeah, you almost have to have their cooperation, don't you?
Yeah.
They're interspersed all over.
Yeah, so, there are some ATV trails on private land. It seems like it tends to be some of the larger industrial private lands. So.
Well, how about like a farmer? Are there trails that go through farmer's land in an area that has a lot of acreage?
There's a few. I know of one in Aiken County that there's a farmer that allows some ATV trail on his property. So.
But he allows it.
Yeah, he's an enthusiast, actually.
Enthusiast, okay, that helps.
Yep, yeah,
Okay.
definitely helps. So.
Yeah, we don't want to be, there's people that are anti-ATV, but if you put everything together, it's a recreation.
Right.
And everything's more. I mean, you go out on the lake, everybody's got a 150 horse motor on there. So here we go. We got a huge trail system in Itasca County, and use them. Let's get out there and use them. If you got the means and you've got the equipment, they're there. And a lot of folks, I suppose, that have this equipment aren't even aware a lot of the trails around. I mean, unless they join a club or something.
No, yeah, I think that there was a need for more managed trails because the use is there. It's been increasing. So Sara and we've been working a lot the last 10 years to help get clubs get trails on the ground.
Yeah.
So.
Sara, the types of recreational vehicles, can you kind of help us with that? What we have
Sure.
here, what are we talking about? What are we dealing with here?
When you deal in classification with OHV, it encompasses a wide
OHV,
range.
what is an OHV?
Off-highway vehicle,
Perfect. An off-highway vehicle, not a car,
not a car,
not a golf cart.
not a golf cart.
Okay, okay.
You get into a couple classifications. You get into your Class 1 ATV, which is up to 50 inches outside tire to outside tire.
Okay.
Yep. And then you get into your Class 2s ATVs, which is between 50 inches and 65 inches.
That's a wider machine. That's usually those double or side-by-sides or
Side-by-sides,
something?
yep. Or your UTVs.
UTVs, which is, what is that?
Utility.
Utility, yeah.
vehicles, Typically utility.
Okay, you're seeing more and more of those, aren't you? I mean, they're just like
Large. Yeah, they're getting very big, yeah. And,
everything in this country gets bigger.
bigger and faster.
Yeah,
and-
okay. So you got those two things.
Yep, and then you have off-highway motorcycle or OHMs,
Yeah.
which we have classifications, trails for those as well. And if they're on a road, they have to be have tail lights and brake lights and a headlight, of course.
Motorcycle.
Yes.
type, okay.
Yep.
Okay, let's get this question in and we'll come back. But can a motorcycle use a regular ATV trail?
If it's designated.
If it's designated, okay. Now, are we just talking county trails here or all OHV trails? I mean,
Yeah, it depends on who the agency is.
Yeah.
The ownership of the trail, the sponsor of the trail, it depends on what they designate it as. Like Thistledew, for instance, Thistledew ATV Trail. that's maintained and managed by the state.
Okay,
That is specifically Class 1 and Class 2, but not off-highway motorcycle. So there's different areas. It depends on who the ownership is.
If I get on a trail with my ATV, should I have to worry about going into another jurisdiction and having different rules? Will this trail attach to another area where I have to, because of the vehicle I'm on, it won't be appropriate for that trail? I mean, you know, how far can I go on some of these trails? Can you go from jurisdiction to jurisdiction? Can I go from a state trail to a county trail to a federal trail?
You can, and it all depends on how it's laid out and how it's planned. Within the development, we have a wide range of trails within Itasca County that branch across different ownerships. And our ATV trails primarily, ATV and OHM, are through the grant aid program. They are grant aid, designated grant aid trails. So in that process, we work with the different agencies, different landowners for laying out the trail, and making sure those communications are met. And so you'll see any trail out there connecting to those different land ownerships.
And there's plenty of signage.
All of our grant aids, ATV, snowmobile trails
so you
are
know
signed.
if I'm on and I come to something that might change, there's a sign there that's going to tell me supposedly.
Potential. If you're on a Forest Service, they have their
The Forest Service, U.S. Forest Service.
Yep, the U.S. Forest Service has their designations through their motor vehicle use map that they put together, and you can find that online, or at the Chippewa National Forest Deer River office. They have them there as well.
So if you're talking about federal trails, that's kind of quite a bit different. I mean, there's some different rules on there. So you're better off to go to a Forest Service, get the map. If you're going to be operating most of your time on those,
Correct.
is to find out what their rules are.
Correct.
And so you won't get into any problems there. Okay. Can you help the public define grant and aid?
Grant and aid is a program that is funded through a portion of the gas tax and user fees. The DNR administers the grants to local units of government which act as sponsors for local clubs.
Local units of government, county, city?
Township,
Township, okay.
city, you know, it could be any local unit of government.
They
Itasca-
delve this money out to
Yep.
those folks. Okay.
Yep. So the county, you know, Itasca County sponsors a ton of trails. They're a great sponsor for us. So a club will apply to the county, you know, for
Does
sponsorship.
it have to be a club?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep. Has to be a club. Can't be an individual. Can't be a business. It has to be a nonprofit.
Has to be an organized nonprofit.
501c3.
So what I'm hearing is, I'll interrupt you here for a minute, that all the trails that have been developed here lately are club-developed trails?
Club-driven, volunteer-driven. You know, it's really relies on a grassroots sort of a structure to get trails on the ground.
The county hasn't just gone out and made a trail without a club, is that what I'm hearing?
No.
No, so the clubs are the main instigator of these trails.
Yep.
Okay, how does that work again though? They get money.
Right. Well, maybe I'll let Sara explain Itasca County's process for a new club.
Okay,
So
I'm a new club.
you're a new club. You have an interest in your area that your club is around. We'll take central Itasca County, for instance.
All right.
So you have a designation, you want point A to point B. You would come to our land department office and work with me on getting that interest out there, talking to the county board. We have a OHV trail development policy that was established.
Do all counties have this?
Not all counties,
No,
no.
okay, so we're
No.
pretty special here.
So we're,
Okay. Because
we
of the
do
land we
work.
got.
Yep,
yeah.
and other counties are developing their own
Sure, okay.
policies as well. But primarily Itasca County, our policy follows in line with the grant aid program, where clubs come to us. So you would come to me, with your interest. We would bring it to your interest to the board. Public meetings are involved, so we get the interest out there to the public, especially if it's the area that you're in, that you want the trail in. That we get those townships in the area, we get the citizens aware of the trail interest. If we have somewhat of a route, we look at things. It works with planning things out as well, because it's just the preliminary stages.
I suppose you got to look at private landowners.
Yes, you have to look at your land ownership base, environmental. So you got to look at wetland areas. That's a big one when coexisting trails.
As well it should be.
Yep. And so with that, if we find a route and we're looking at areas where it needs to be, and we have something definite, and bring that to the public. The clubs will come back to the county board with all that information and ask for tentative sponsorship. So tentative sponsorship allows for us to continue further with the process. It allows the clubs, along with myself, in directing them and assisting them to request landowner permits if we need to. We go through any environmental permits that need to be done. Land ownership permission is the biggest one. Depending on who the landowner is, whether if it's private or private forestry, or we have mining lands to work with, or state or federal. There's different processes for each when it gets into other agencies too. So we have to follow in accordance with those. So once we've established all those permissions and we received all of those permissions, we compile everything together into a new trail proposal, and I bring it to the area supervisor for Parks and Trails, who would be Guy Lunds currently, and Andrew, and that goes through a review process.
Andrew's involved because you're state. The state makes the final decision on this, don't they?
Right. I can kind of speak to where once the county has their new project proposal in line, it goes to the DNR. There's an area team review, so all DNR area staff would review the project for potential conflicts and make sure that it matches what they're managing their units for. And then once it goes through the area team review, then I get it and I bring it to the regional management team. And typically, if a project goes through the area team review smoothly, it'll go through the regional team review smoothly. So
okay. Well, I'm hearing you on this, and I'm going back. My mind keeps going back to the club.
Yep.
Because the club is the one that initially proposes.
Yep.
Okay.
And I could branch off to what I was saying too from the club side of things.
Yeah.
Because once they receive tentative sponsorship with us, we have an agreement, Itasca County, between Itasca County and the clubs. So it outlines the duties and responsibilities of the club's role for the trail that we are sponsoring, and the county's role as the sponsor.
Yeah. So the club, I think the first thing you have to do when the proposal comes in is how viable is this club? And is there enough membership? Are there people that are willing to continue to work? Because they're going to be in charge of the maintenance on this trail, right?
Yep.
So I can see where maybe a couple people might come up and say, we're a club and we want this trail, but boy, there better be some toughness behind that, right?
Yes, yep. They have to have a full organized board as a nonprofit.
Yeah.
They have to have a president and vice president, treasurer. There is a trail coordinator that is established in voting. And I work primarily with the trail administrator or trail coordinator, as so to speak. So they're going to be the primary ones to work with all the paperwork, all the trail work logs, get all the work log from the club. So they're working directly with me.
There's a process here.
Yep, there is a process.
So it just can't be anybody who calls themselves a club then.
Correct.
Okay. Now, the grant and aid, let's talk a little more about that. Is that at like 80% or something? What is that? What monies? Let's talk about money here.
Sure.
It's going to take money to maintain that trail forever, develop it.
Grant
what
and
is
aid, just as it sounds, is an aid in the process to the trail. So for new development projects, it'll only fund 65% of the cost. So it's very important. You know, there's some
Is this the
matching-
snowmobile trails too?
snowmobile and ATV.
Okay.
Yep. So there's other grants out there that are very important to a club developing a new trail. You know, and also probably some incentive for the club to raise some money for the trail
Well, yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Maintenance funds, on the other hand, are funded at 90% through grant aid. So once your trail's established, 90% of your maintenance
okay.
funding will be covered through grant aid.
Interesting. So you see some of these big groomers out there.
Yeah.
The reason that they're needed, but the reason the trails are in such incredible good condition here when we have snow, compared to any place else in the country, is because of this grant and aid program that pays for the equipment to maintain these trails
And another big
and the people that work with
a
it.
big piece of the grooming equipment, because they're so costly, the
Yeah.
federal recreational trails program grants
Ah.
assist greatly with the purchases of those machines.
But there's still that 10% thing that the club is probably going to have to raise somewhere. So that's why you see
In
fundraising.
kind, yeah, in kind services.
Okay, so every club has some sort of a fundraiser, right? I mean, it seems that way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're-
they'll
they're
do some sort of
dues?
fundraising. Yep.
They can
Board
also-
dues, yep.
They can also volunteer trail work and log those hours at a set rate that's, you know, is it $16 an hour now, or
20.
20? Is it 20? Okay,
To
it's
the
20.
allowable
Yeah,
cost.
and what happens to that money?
That can be logged as volunteer and then used as a match on the grant.
That could go back into the trail maintenance, or is there wages involved in that? Sometimes?
You know, I know some clubs pay groomer operators, but in most cases, that is really set up to work the best if, you know, clubs volunteer time and then log it at that rate as a match to their grant.
Okay, okay. Let's see, where was I going to go? I was going to go with this. You're talking about these trails and all the different entities supporting these. You know, you're talking about trails that go into different jurisdictions, right? I mean, you have a trail proposal, all of a sudden, okay, the board's, there's a trail.
Yeah.
You're going through county land, state land, township land, so on. So, who's in charge of that? I mean,
In most cases, if it's a designated grant and aid trail, you know, the allowable use on that trail is going to be consistent from one end to the next.
Yes.
If you're talking just general trails out there, there's so
Yes.
many trails out there that, you know, it really, if it's not a designated motorized trail, it's really going to be up to the user to make sure that they're following the letter of the law of where they're going to be. And that you touched on it earlier, if you're going to be on Forest Service lands, they've got what's called a motor vehicle use map. You can get it online, you can get it at the district ranger station, and it'll show all the spurs that go off into their lands off of the main trunk routes, and how long, or the distance that's allowed to be traveled by
right.
ATV.
Well, everybody's seen those signs now that they've
Yep.
been up in the
Brown
woods,
signs,
you know.
yep.
Some of them are 0.1 miles or something. You know, but, you know, letter of the law, right?
Knowing where you're at or in the landscape is a big challenge
Yeah,
up here,
yeah.
because you've got such a mosaic of public land and private land, and, you know, so
If you're out there without a map, you're kind of in tough shape, really, if you're traveling and spending a day out there. You should have a map. You should be responsible enough
right.
to know where you are, whose land you're on, and, you know, here, I'm right here, and I can justify where I am. Perfect, you know. There's
Now-
got to be a little responsibility on the user, too.
Well, now with smartphones, every year they're getting better with different tools you can use. I know Polaris has a ride command program that they're
Really?
putting together, and they're mapping out large areas of the country. I mean, I would imagine within a few years,
Yeah.
you can probably almost have everything you need on one program on your smartphone.
But you can be on an Arctic Cat and still use the Polaris thing.
I don't know how that. I don't know if that'll work or not, but you can use it on your smartphone.
That's right.
So,
There you go.
but some of them are being made now. They're built right into the machines, the screens.
Really?
Yeah. So
It's not going to stop, is it?
no, it's not going to stop.
Advancement, yeah.
All right, well, let's get into some of the questions that the public has. I know that I hear around, you know, we talk occasionally about these kind of things, and the dates of use. Any of you can cover that, but you know, some trails cut off at a certain time of the year. And let's connect that up with, can an ATV be on a snowmobile trail?
most cases, not during the groomed December 1 to April.
Well, let's talk the December, okay, let's talk December what to what?
December 1st through April 1st is the snowmobile season, so ATVs are not allowed on groomed snowmobile trails.
And mainly it's because of a couple things, right? It's the destruction of the trail and who's paying for the trail.
And it also has to do with
supporting
the land ownership too, as well, is key.
Yes.
Because a lot of our snowmobile trails in Itasca County cross private land. And it all is up to what the landowner has that permission for.
Okay.
So if they're only permitting snowmobiles across their property, the snowmobile trail, that's it.
You don't pay the landowners, do you?
No. It's
voluntary.
mostly it's pretty much a landowner permission form is what they fill out, and it gives us permission with those dates for that use to be on their property.
Well, that's where some of the conflicts come in on building a trail, isn't it? Private people that don't want this on their land, and yet that's the closest route, and kind of go around their land sometimes. I mean, have you seen any of that? Or?
It can, and it depends on communication. Communicating very well with the alignments that you're working on, and with the people that so if there is a private landowner that doesn't want the trail on the property, we find other avenues.
Right.
We find another way around if possible.
One of the ones that I remember decades ago was, and I think it just got it's been that long, but the trail from Grand Rapids to Deer River it was always a real problem. They had a really good trail from Grand Rapids to Deer River, but they got it now. But back then it was a real problem because of land ownership that didn't want them to go through, and there wasn't any place else to put it.
Right.
So, okay, well, we've got, we have clubs that are designated, have certain trails under their jurisdiction, these clubs. How many clubs are there in Itasca County that do this?
Oh boy, let's see.
Are there quite a few?
It's a lot.
There's a lot of them, huh?
Six clubs, I believe.
Range riders and I don't know.
Yeah, so we have the Pengilly Red Rock Riders, we have the Itasca Trail Riders, we have the Range Riders ATV Club, we have the Balsam Trail Blazers ATV Club, we have the Wilderness Wheelers ATV Club, the Rapids Riders ATV Club, and the Alvawood Squaw Lake ATV Club.
Okay.
So, and then we also have another one coming on, which is the Bushwhackers Snowmobile Club is also becoming an ATV club,
okay,
so they're developing trails too.
There's about as many snowmobile clubs too, about the same amount?
It's about more
few
snowmobile
more.
clubs. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's getting to even out, but there are more snowmobile clubs than are ATV clubs.
It doesn't seem to be a lot of conflicts between the two, is there? I mean, the snowmobile and the ATV, as far as the clubs go, do they
I haven't seen
accommodate
any.
each other pretty well?
Yeah, a lot of what I see working with them on a day-to-day basis is you have the same membership. There's snowmobile
sure.
club members that are in the ATV club or
Motors,
vice.
motors.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
So coordination is key, especially when you talked about ATV trails being on snowmobile trails. It's good relationship between the two clubs to communicate because you're mixing two different maintenance.
So can
maintenance
ATVs
funds.
be on snowmobile trails in the summer?
If the land ownership is involved, is permitted, and then the other is environmental. So we're dealing with a lot of wetlands in our county. So we have wetlands that we have to provide crossings for when we're working on trail development.
So the wetlands could be affected in the summer, but not necessarily the winter? Is there?
Because they're frozen,
Yeah,
wetlands are
so-
more frozen.
I can see where that would be a conflict where, okay, we don't want ATVs on this at all.
Right, and if it's on a groomed snowmobile trail, they cannot be on there.
Groomed snowmobile trail, okay.
There are a few trails out, like the Auburn Pengilly grade, that's an ATV trail in the summertime, and a snowmobile trail in the winter.
Tell us about that one. That seems to be a really neat deal where you have old railroad grades. Do we have more than one in Itasca County?
The Blue Ox Trail passes through Itasca County, and there's 11 miles of the Blue Ox in the northwestern part of the county.
Northwest,
Yep.
up around Elwood in that area?
Yep, northwest, up by Black Duck, North
Black
Home.
Duck, yeah,
Yep.
okay, that goes through, okay. And that's an old railroad grade?
Yes. Yep.
Boy, what a good deal that is. I mean, does the railroad own that?
No,
No.
No, that's been acquired by
Abandoned
other.
quite some time.
Yep.
Yeah.
MnDOT actually owns it.
MnDOT.
Yep.
Okay.
We have a limited use permit to operate a recreational trail on there.
Okay. So there's the railroad grade over at Pengilly. That's quite a few miles, right?
Yeah, it runs from
40 miles.
Allborn all the way to Pengilly.
Allborn to Pengilly. Wow. Okay. And then Aiken County is full of them too down there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the one you're thinking of is the Sioux line.
Yeah, from
That-
Reamer to
That goes all the way
wherever.
up to Cass Lake to
Yeah.
into Wisconsin. So
These trails used a lot in the summer. I mean, do you see a lot of use when you're out there?
definitely
Is it a
see the
daily
use.
use or
You get your peak times of the year. You know,
Okay. Fall particularly?
fall is a good time. You know, especially with a lot of our North Woods area connections. You know, you get a lot of the fall color. You'll see it arranged throughout the summer too. Later, you know, early summer, before all the bugs and dust come out. But you know,
Dust is a big
dust
thing.
is a big one. You know, dusty
Yeah.
trails or dusty roads.
Dust or
so,
mud, you can't
yeah.
get in between.
But you see it evened out throughout the year, and you can tell the use by, you know, when the clubs go for maintenance every year, and definitely see
Yeah.
what has been impacted. A lot of our connector trails you can definitely see get impacted, like our UPM Blandon Trail in the southern part of the county that connects to the Raby line, which then goes to the Hill City area, to the Blind Lake Trail, and over to the Sioux line. So there's a lot of connecting trails.
And Blandon also cuts off some of their trails during certain times of the year, right?
During breakup times.
Breakup time, which
Yep.
you got to
Yep.
do it. Yeah,
Is-
'cause boy, they can really be destructive if they're
Yep.
in the wrong area there.
And when
Yeah.
you got into trail closure dates for snowmobile, we have trail closure dates for ATV trails as well.
Okay,
We have
huh.
open and closure dates, and that falls upon who the land base is. So if we're working with Blandon on having trails and on their property, you know, we follow within their opening restrictions, and that's around their breakup time when things are done.
I got a brand new ATV, and I live in Hill City, and I want to go to Big Fork. And I want to go through Grand Rapids. Is that possible?
Not by trail.
Not by trail. Oh, yeah, I should have mentioned ATV. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so not by, really, it's not by trail.
We have,
Because there's
yeah,
not
we don't,
enough connectors.
we don't have a connection between Grand Rapids and Big Fork. With the new, last year, Itasca County, we set up the new ordinance for ATVs to be on county roads. That was about July 15th, I believe
Right.
that was
Tell
established.
us about that. Is that,
Sure. So before the ordinance was established, you know, class twos, your side-by-sides could be on the far right side of the road. They could be on road surface, but have to be on far right side.
yeah, they had a weight
Yep.
thing back then,
Yep,
1,400
and
pounds.
your class ones, you know, your handlebar ATVs had to be in the ditch. So the ordinance allowed for your class ones to be on road surface instead of being in the ditch. And so because of that, you know, we're seeing, you know, people are out there, you know, have a short segment that they want to get from point A to point B, or run down to their mailbox to get the mail, or maybe they pick up garbage along the ditch with their ATVs.
That's
and
legal now.
so they can run their ATV on the county road, on the far right side shoulder.
Yeah, you could always run them in a ditch.
Yes, and we've deemed, because of the ordinance, we've deemed, you have to deem your ditches or your right-of-ways as impassable. So they are, so with the ordinance, we have fully established that use to be on the road, except for County Road 75, which goes into Scenic State Park.
Scenic State Park, that's a whole different, that's really crowded up there, so you don't want, but state highways,
No, state highways, you have to
Federal highways.
you have to be within the right-of-way. You have to be in the ditch bottom back slope by statute.
and snowmobiles and everything. Yeah.
So as a rider, you really have to know where you're at. You know, review where you're going, and Andrew touched on it. Is always review where you're going first. check the trail conditions via website through the DNR office. Contact your local club with the trail that you're riding on, and know the jurisdiction of road that you're on. You know, Highway 38, US Highway 2, Highway 46.
How about in Grand Rapids? Do you know the rules in Grand Rapids?
The City of Grand Rapids has an ordinance set up, and I don't want to quote it because I don't know I don't know it for sure.
But you can ride on the block roads.
You can ride on the back, the back streets around here, but not on the central business district. Any state highway within the city limits, and so the City of Grand Rapids, I believe, has a information site that you can go on, one of their department links that you can
I
go on
think
and
most
review
of
the
the roads
ordinance.
you can operate on in Grand Rapids,
Yep.
but you have to follow the general state of the right and the stop signs and
Yep.
the general
Yep.
stuff.
Pretty much your
so-
back streets.
Yeah, and that's
everything.
snowmobiles and ATVs.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if there is an inquiry from the public on can I ride my ATV in Grand Rapids, I would definitely visit the website or contact the city to follow.
But it sounds like there would be a way to get out of the city anyway to a trail legally, because you can ride on the block roads in Grand Rapids, to get out there. So
Yep, and then just you're following, your state highways or
tell us
county
about the
roads.
Mesabi Trail, or the trail going to Ely and Tower. Are there special regulations on that? Is there a separate trail for ATVs from bikes?
No, there's not.
There's not.
No, it's primarily bikes, walkers, rollerblader.
Yeah,
people.
but the snowmobile trail that goes to Ely from Grand Rapids.
The Taconite Trail,
Taconite
and
Trail.
Andrew can touch a little bit
Touch
about
on that a little bit, because that's a little bit confusing on that, some of it. And it's used a lot here.
Taconite Trail is a state trail, so it was.
That's different than the Mesabi Trail.
Yes. Yes.
Totally separate all the time?
Not totally separate. We've got a few miles up north of the fairgrounds here in Grand Rapids where snowmobiles and the bike trail actually share. So
Okay.
and it's been really successful.
Does the Mesabi Trail parallel the Taconite Trail?
It does, but it also overlaps north of town here, until you get out to 61, and then the Taconite continues north, and the Mesabi Trail, dives off towards Coleraine and up the range that way.
Are there special regulations on the Taconite Trail for ATVs?
Yes, the Taconite Trail is snowmobile only. We just did a master plan amendment that we wrapped up last year. It will allow us to evaluate sections of the Taconite Trail for opening to ATVs.
That's the question I had, because boy, people don't know that about the Taconite Trail.
And there are sections of the Taconite Trail on county land where ATVs are allowed, so it's a little confusing.
It's blacktopped, right? Some of it? No, it's not blacktop.
natural surface.
That's natural surface, the
Yep,
whole Taconite
natural
Trail.
surface,
Okay.
yep.
The Mesabi Trail is blacktop most of the way.
Yeah.
Yep.
The entirety.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, the Taconite Trail master plan was written for snowmobile and non-motorized use only until we completed our master plan amendment, which now has language in there that will allow us to, say a club wants to designate a trail, a new grant and aid trail, using a portion of the Taconite Trail. Well, if it's sustainable for summer use, ATV use, we can now evaluate that without having to go back to the legislature each time.
Well, having the Mesabi Trail there really helps, because it takes the potential bike traffic off of the Taconite Trail.
Sure.
Yeah, because I remember when it was just the Taconite Trail one time, and they kind of conflicted there for a while.
Yeah, the Taconite Trail acquired the right-of-way. The bike trail got permission to use the right-of-way from the Taconite Trail. The way I understood, the Taconite Trail was there first, so they couldn't kick the snowmobiles off when they put the bike trail in. So that was a good thing. But
All right. Well, who can talk about juvenile operation here? There's just, I don't want to talk about the real, this information is available. If you've got a juvenile that wants to, under 18, that wants to ride a ATV, there's special regulations.
yes.
But the main thing is from 12 to 15. It's really kind of restrictive there, which it should be.
I studied up before I came because I don't write tickets, so I don't have them by heart all the time. But I know any operator under 10 has to be on private land no matter what. They can't be out there in the public domain.
Even if they're
operating.
with an adult or anything?
You know,
Yep.
and you know, you should still follow responsible riding and wear a helmet and supervise and probably not put that kid on a machine that's too big for his capabilities.
They have to be licensed?
Nothing between 10 and 11 changes.
Oh, okay.
12 to 15, they have to have a certificate and be accompanied by an adult 18 years of age or older to ride on public trails, to cross public roads, any of that
They
stuff.
can't cross public road without an
An adult.
adult.
They need to have their certificate
Parent or
and be
adult.
accompanied by an adult
On a
what's an
separate
adult?
ATV.
18 years or older.
18 years old.
And if you're under 18, you have to wear a DOT approved helmet. No
Anywhere
exceptions.
Other than private land, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so, interesting. So, if you've got a juvenile, certificate. The certificates, where do they get that?
Well, it goes back to our great clubs. So many of them sponsor safety courses throughout the year, and you can find out more information about that, I think, on the DNR website. Those are posted.
Almost every club does, don't they?
Yeah, yep,
For their area.
yep.
got certified instructors.
Certified instructors, they follow the DNR safety course format. A lot of it now, I believe, is self-study. They can get a CD and do most of the book work at their own pace through the CD course. I think it's even offered online now. And
They still have to do a field test,
They have
though.
to do
don't
a
they?
field
yep,
test,
then they
yes.
get together as a group with the clubs and
Yeah.
do a field
'Cause
course.
I know they do it up at the fairgrounds
And
here.
have a skills test. Yep.
So,
So,
interesting. So, we're trying to protect our youth and get them into this sport, recreational sport, gradually, so they have some responsibility and little thoughts about safety, which is tough to do in a juvenile sometimes. But that this is, at least the state, Minnesota, is tackling this. And they're using the resources, the clubs, that monies to promote this, and that's good. Without that, we want to keep this accident rate down as far as we can, see. And does the speed of these machines bother you at all? Some of these? I mean, as far as, they can be,
I think just as important as the capability of the machine is also on trail managers and the folks laying out the trails.
yes.
You can design a trail to keep speed down. And I know a lot of our trails out there follow existing routes, and it's a little more of a challenge when you're using a road or a railroad grade or something like that to keep the speed down because of the long sight lines, and riders get a little bored with a straight
It
trail.
seems that's where the bad statistics are too, on the faster trails, railroad grades and things like that. But and snowmobile trails too, right? I mean,
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
you can
you
keep
know.
that down a little bit.
Speed's a
I
problem.
mean, an ATV basically isn't mechanically made for a smooth, fast road, is it?
No, I mean the low pressure tires
Yeah.
and the design of the machine really can get you into trouble fast at fast speeds.
You don't want to go at fast speeds
And
with
the
those
fast speed in
machines.
some situation could be 25 miles an hour. So,
I think all it takes is a quick turn at the wrong time.
yeah. So, I think hopefully the statistics on injuries and so on will be going down here when. But you guys are a big part of this because again, here they're on the trails, and the trails are only so good for speed. It's like highways. I mean, they have speed limits on highways for a reason because a highway can only handle that speed. And so hopefully these trails will be acquired. Are you acquiring any more on trails? Do you have anything on the horizon here on your agendas lately, Sarah?
I'm working on a few. Yep. There's a proposal that's out there to connect the city of Nashwauk to the Alborn grade. We're working on that right now. There's also a loop system that we're working on that branches off the B&B connection, which the Wilderness Wheelers maintain, that will connect over to Wirt and down to Jesse Lake and Marcel, kind of make a nice big loop. And then we do have another trail that the Deer River Bushwhackers ATV Snowmobile Club is working on to connect the lower Winnie area, kind of by by Gosh Dam Place there, the restaurant, and the Winnie Trading Post, to the Sioux line, to the North Sioux line over by Bena and that connection.
Well, you know, I look at this and I observe where this is going, and it's like the snowmobile trails 30 years ago. And now we have snowmobile trails, and it's almost to the point where we have plenty, and you can go anywhere in the state with a snowmobile. And you can start in Alberta, Minnesota, and go all the way to International Falls on a snowmobile trail.
There's 22,000 miles of
22,000
snowmobile trails in the
miles
state of
in
Minnesota.
Minnesota, which is like double any other state that's closest. And I can see ATV trails in that process. And I look 10 years down the line, and you're probably going to have about the same thing. You're going to have ATV, you'll be able to get on an ATV and pretty much legally get on a public trail and pretty much go anywhere in the state, I would think.
Yeah.
You know, around, because
Getting connector trails.
Yeah, and you
a
just
lot of
mentioned connector
destination
trails.
trails. Yep.
yeah,
yep.
you know, the circle routes and so and getting out of towns and things like that, and different counties. Do you deal
Connecting
with St. Louis
businesses
County?
and-
I mean, do you communicate with them at all as far as? Yeah.
Yeah, St. Louis County's got a lot going on right now. I've been working more in that area with the Tower Parks and Trails folks and the St. Louis County Trails Task Force. There's several proposals right now.
Yeah.
We've got an expansion in progress at the off-highway vehicle rec area between Virginia and Gilbert. There's a 2,500 acre expansion that's been in process there for a while. There's a club in the city of Virginia that's working on trails connecting north and west from Virginia. And just kind of a general momentum towards increasing the number of connections, you know, across the range from Virginia to Grand Rapids. I think that's a piece that folks see as important, connecting the range from east to west with an OHV trail. And that's a challenging corridor because you've got a lot of mining land, which can be a little more difficult to work
Private.
with. Yep, it's private. They require high insurance limits if they allow you on their land at all.
That's changed a lot over the last 20 years there.
So it's, you know, I would say St. Louis County is very much developing at this point with trails.
You know, trails, when they come into a town and so on, and you connect these things, it brings in, it's a monetary thing too for that community, isn't it? I mean,
Economic development. Yeah,
it'll be-
definitely.
I can see areas where there's going to
Tourism.
be trail parking, things like, I mean, parking for OHVs someplace where they can get into town, and I can see that. I mean, you do have snowmobiles now. You know, you can run into a town and stop. And interesting.
Most of our designated ATV trails that we have parking areas where you can park and ride and go, or some may connect to. Now with the ordinance, of course, there's opportunity to, from a resort or wherever, to get to a designated trail if you need to.
Yeah, if you have to use a county road, you know, you don't promote using it.
No, not at all. No, when working with clubs, they don't want to be on a road.
Right.
We
You'd
want to be
rather
in the
not be on a
woods
road,
and
but-
designate.
So that law that went in doesn't mean you have to get on a county road and just
No,
motor, you
no.
know.
And to touch on youth a little bit too,
Yeah.
Tom, in regards to the ordinance, and it follows within state statute, so it applies to the youth safety. So, and with the ordinance, the 16 and older have to have a driver's license on the
Driver's
ordinance.
yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So just so folks know that they, if you're riding, if your youth is riding on a road, of course, that 12 to 15, they have to have their ATV certificate. They have to have, be accompanied by an adult, and that 16-year-old has to have a driver's license.
And all these are enforced by all the law enforcement agencies.
Correct.
You got the state patrol, the sheriff deputies, and,
Yep.
and the conservation officers, and
Correct.
they all enforce those regulations. So if it's on a county road, wherever, any of those law enforcement agencies can enforce those regulations. So
That's why I say, and we both have said, to know where you're going and research before you ride. That's key to know, so you don't end up in a situation that you're.
yeah, it's not hard to stay out of a problem if you just do a little bit of homework and get the maps, know where you're going. A little planning, helps a little bit. So.
And speaking of maps, so we just our Itasca County ATV map just came out, and you can get that at the Grand Rapids Herald Review has them, and also Visit Grand Rapids has them too. So
The Herald Review and
And
Visitor
Grand Rapids.
Center
Yep.
down there.
Yep.
And where else?
I have some at the land department office. I did drop some off at the DNR office too, so you can get them there as well.
All right.
So
It's,
it's a nice map.
Interesting. It's a nice map. I haven't seen this before. And so this is good. This is really good for the public. And, you know, I'm not going to open it up now, but I bet you there's a lot of, well, I could.
You can open it up, yeah.
Why can't I?
It basically mirrors the design mirrors our snowmobile map. So
Yeah, I just want to upside down. Yeah, is it upside down? Yeah, it is. Here we go. So, yeah. So, boy, it's all color coordinated or color coded. Let's
Yep.
put it that way. And so, folks, recreational trails. This is the map to have. It shows you everything. Shows you land ownership too.
this does not.
This does not. Okay.
Mainly highlights the trails. On the side panel on your right side, it shows the name of the clubs.
Oh, okay.
And the
Well, if
types
you're on
of-
any of those trails, you're going to
types
be
of
legal
uses
anyway. So,
and-
yeah.
Yep. And it also explains the trail closure dates and to check trail conditions before you go. There's some trails that are not open currently right now. The one that is the Alborn grade. That opens April 1st. And the Alwood system is open too. They open May 2nd. So,
Perfect.
but yeah, there's a lot of businesses on the back that
A lot of business
Harold
sponsor.
and- Yep.
Sponsor all this because they want to be
They
involved.
put their ads on
Yeah.
the map, and it gives some information on safety and frequent questions, and it's a nice map. It was really well done.
And you can get snowmobile maps too.
Yep, we have the similar
The
type
same
of
thing,
map.
So
Yep.
we'll just put that here. So that's good. Yeah, you get your snowmobile map, ATV map. You know where you are.
Yep, we have cross-country ski trail maps. We have, there's maps for the Mesabi Bike Trail. So
Yeah. There's a fee for that, isn't there?
there is,
on the
but
Mesabi Bike
I
Trail.
can't tell you how much it is.
No, but I mean, there's a fee that.
A bike pass that you have to purchase. Yep, yep.
And I heard that goes to a different department. That money, like the railroad or
Mesabi Trail Group, the St. Louis County Rail Authority, the
rail authority.
the
Yeah.
Itasca County Rail Authority, they're all together on that.
It's $15 a year.
Yeah, something
Yeah,
like that.
15 bucks.
$3 or $5 a day or something. So
It's not a bad deal, really,
Yeah.
for
And
what
pay
you
right
got.
at the entrance at the fairgrounds. Yep.
Yeah, pretty neat. Okay, this is it. Anything else you want to just kind of say about the trails of Itasca County?
thanks for having us on. And if you want to be more involved, you got to get a hold of your local club and work with Sara.
Become a member and be active. Yeah. It's all about the rider and safety and being a good trail steward is important. You know, knowing where you are, staying on the trails that are marked, crossing at wetland crossings, designated wetland crossings, and just overall being a good trail steward.
Yeah. And you could probably do that the best by joining a club, huh?
Joining a club, being involved, community support.
Yeah. Sounds good. Thank you, folks. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
very much.
Appreciate you coming in. And thank you, folks, for watching Just Outdoors. And remember, stay informed.
Mm-hmm.